Hello, this is Rod Ovid with another Take 5. We bring these each day to you, Monday through Saturday, and we have had a great response. We're so glad that many of you are following these, listening to them, making them part of your day. Some of you are binge listening and catching 5 or 6 or 10 at a time, but that's fine. Each one has a point to make, and we just take about 5 minutes each day and just try to make the Word come alive and give us something to feast on between Sundays. So you can pick them up here at our Facebook channel for Rod Ovid or Logos Institute of Biblical Studies. Today we're looking at James 1, verses 22 through 25. James, a very practical book. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like a man who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But the man who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom, and continues to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, he will be blessed in what he does. And so there's been this controversy throughout the church life of pitting Paul against James, one seemingly saying that we're justified by faith, and then James perhaps coming out with a works doctrine, but that's really not the case. James isn't any more works doctrine than Paul. He's just showing a little bit of the other side of the coin. You know, the old story of 5 people examining an elephant, all 5 being blind and using their hands to feel different parts of the elephant and then saying, oh, the elephant's real thin and skinny. Well, why's that? Because he was messing with the tail. Or someone says, oh, he's like a tree, and someone's looking at the leg of an elephant. And we all do that. Sometimes we get these doctrines and we only look at part of them, but that's why we do go to the whole counsel of God. And James brings in his part. He says, look, there's a mirror that we need to look at, and he calls it the law. And that is true. God provided his moral law to the world. Jesus didn't negate the need for a moral law. See, God's reflected in that law. You want to know about God's moral character? Look at the law. You want to know what God thinks about living? Look at the law. It tells you. It's a perfect example of how he would like everyone to live. Of course, we'd have to be sinless creatures to fulfill it all, but it's still the goal. And so he calls it the perfect law. And we look at that law as if it's a mirror, and we see that we come short, and we make adjustments, and we change, and we behave correctly. But he says if you're not listening to the word, you're just deceiving yourselves. You're saying you're a Christian, and you're not obeying. You're not listening to the word. We need to do what it says. Because if you don't, it's like we look in the mirror, we see our face, and we walk away and forget it. And we've all done that. How many times have we said, oh, I've got to go to the store, but I'm not going to change, and walk out of the house with a spot on your shirt or something like that. And sure enough, 15 people are there in the store. And sometimes we just get lazy. We look in that mirror and say, I'm not going to shave today, or I'm not going to fix my hair. I'm not going to do those things. Well, when it comes to the law of God, we have to take it seriously and look at it, and we base our behavior on that. And then we take all the New Testament applications and apply them. We say, okay, if we sin, we ask forgiveness, and God is quick and just to forgive our sin, and we pick ourselves up, we move on, we don't quench the Spirit of God. All of these things. In fact, there's a verse that Paul writes in Ephesians, I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called. That's Ephesians 4:1. And that walking worthy we've talked about before. It's peripateo axios. Peripateo is a word that means to walk about, to walk around. And axios is where we get the word axle. And it means to balance the load. And so really what we do is we look at all that Jesus has done for us, all that God has done for us, and we need to put something in the other side. Obviously, we're not working for our salvation to earn it, but his very life and resurrection and love for us demands that we do something. So we have to walk about in an effort to do our share, to put something on our side, out of reverence and thankfulness and duty. So you put all of that together, and what is it James is saying here? He's saying the man who looks intently into the perfect law, parenthetically he says that gives freedom, by the way, lets you know what God expects. There is a freedom in that. We know what the God of the universe expects from man. We know what he calls moral, and that's good. And he says if you continue to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, then that person will be blessed in what they do. So perhaps it sounds like a simple formula, but it's more than that. It's a lifestyle. It's a worldview. It's the way we live. We learn the Word of God. We read the Word of God. We chew it up. We look at it closely, and then we guide and temper our lives in obedience to that. We learn what it is God expects from us, and we do it. And when we fall, we pick ourselves up and we change behavior. We look in that mirror, we see ourselves for what we are, how we've been behaving, where we're at today, and we make adjustments. That's what we do. So if you do that, if you take the Word of God, you read it, you study it, you pray, God, show me a reflection of myself. Let me see how I am doing and help me make adjustments. You do that, and we certainly will have blessed days.